I'm Brett Lonsdale, and welcome to another webinar this afternoon. This afternoon, we're going to be talking about SharePoint intranets and basically the enhancements that Microsoft has been making to the ability to design SharePoint pages and how that affects Lightning Tools. And then we're also going to take a look at some of the different Lightning Tools products that you can go through and add to your SharePoint pages and basically enhance the intranet experience for your users. So first of all, what I want to do is just give you a quick introduction to Lightning Tools and a bit about us, a bit about myself, and then we're going to jump straight into some demonstrations. We've got hardly any slides today. It's nearly all demos. If you haven't seen some of the new Microsoft stuff that's been launched, you'll be seeing that, as well as seeing how we can also use the Lightning Tools products as well. So as part of the demo, as part of the intro, again, my name is Brett Lonsdale. I'm a Microsoft 365 MVP, we founded Lightning Tools back in 2007 in order to be able to enhance Microsoft SharePoint, which is of course what today is all about. So we've got a portfolio of around about 10 different products, permissions management, also content aggregation, which we'll be seeing today. We'll be taking a look at Social Squared as well, which is our discussion board tool, as well as some data visualization and automation. Besides that, we will also have a forms design tool and also forms migration, which we won't be touching on today. We'll leave that for the next webinar, which you'll be able to attend next month. So we've got the portfolio of products. We're also an ISO 27001, ISO 9001 certified company, and of course, Microsoft partner as well. So agenda for today, we are going to, like I say, get into SharePoint pages. First of all, there's been some exciting things that Microsoft has been working on this year, which we'll take a look at, and we'll jump straight into a demo of that in just a moment. There's going to be 5 products that we're going to be focused on, so we'll get through that hopefully quite quickly, covering the main points. And then if there's something that you want to see in a bit more detail, you'll be able to book a demonstration with me, and we'll be able to deep dive into the products and look at how it can resolve some specific needs of your organization as well. And then we'll also just be, after a demonstration of those products with inside the intranet experience, we'll also be taking a look at some of the enhancements that we made to the products in the last few months that you'll see today. So with that, let's have a look at what's new from Microsoft. If anybody attended the Microsoft 365 conference in Las Vegas, you may have seen some of these features. I've not really caught up on Microsoft Build yet, but there was probably, I would dare say, a lot of this covered there as well. There's numerous improvements that have been made to building a SharePoint intranet experience. You can check out the full list on the Microsoft 365 roadmap. If you just Google that, you'll be able to filter it down to just look at SharePoint pages, and you'll be able to see some of the things that they've released and also some of the things that they're going to be releasing throughout this year. But many of them are also in preview, which you can experience already. So Copilot Pages is one of the things to mention. So we've probably all used Copilot or ChatGPT or DeepSync, whatever it is, to create something visual of late. You'll almost certainly have used PowerPoint for the last few years, and how you can enhance the design experience of your PowerPoint. So it has design suggestions and so on. It'll even go through and insert images and things like that. This is the type of thing that we can now do with SharePoint pages and SharePoint news and so on, in order to be able to create not just good looking content, but also content that actually aligns with exactly what you want to build. So it's using Microsoft Graph to know about you, to know about your environment, and also be able to suggest visuals and improved layouts and so on as well. You can use that for the entire page, but you can also enhance an existing page or an existing section, even some web parts as well, which we'll be touching on today. So you can get design ideas and enhancements by using that Copilot experience. There are actually lots of new layouts, new backgrounds. There's flexible sections and different types of section backgrounds and things like that that you can now work with. They've also made improvements to things like the ability to have real-time co-authoring, so multiple people can work on the page simultaneously. And what will help with that, just jumping down a couple here, is inline commenting as well. So you can comment out sections to say perhaps what you're going to be working on or are working on. If you've used Viva Connections, you may have already experienced the dashboard web part that you have with Viva Connections, and that's now available to any SharePoint page. So we'll be getting into that and having a look at how you can use adaptive cards displayed on a dashboard web part. And then there's also the Brand Center that's had lots of improvements as well, such as custom fonts and logos and colors that you can use. And there's also an inbuilt accessibility checker, which you can use to make sure that you've got the right contrast, you've got alternate text set on images, and so on. So this is something you can also use throughout SharePoint. So I'm just going to demonstrate some of those bits and pieces to you. And one of the reasons for doing that is because we've helped our web parts to take advantage of some of these improvements that Microsoft has also made to their environment. So let's just bring up our SharePoint site here. So this is just a standard SharePoint communication site. It's not Viva Connections. It's literally just, if we go into SharePoint, generate a new site, you've got the option of creating a team site, or you can create a communication site. So that's what this is. And I've used one of the templates and just literally switched out a couple of the images on there. And this is to create a sort of fictional experience. I decided to go away from Contoso and created a generic or made up name called Flight Point for some sort of I don't know, airline booking company. So we've got an intranet around that experience with just some random text generated. Now, what we're going to do is first of all generate some news on this site. So you'll notice in the top left-hand corner is where you're going to, beyond SharePoint agents and things like that, which are also very cool, we're going to go through and create a page with Copilot. So I'm going to choose that option. And when we go into creating the new page, notice how we've got the ability to create just a new post, so news or something along those lines, or we can also create a new page as well. Now we can do everything from the prompt, but there's also some templates as well that we can use, which actually help you put the prompt together. So if I wanted to create a newsletter, for example, I can just simply select that. It's got a sort of rough layout and so on that we can work with. But notice in here where it's helping you create the prompt, you can add to that as well by creating files that you want to use or images that you want to use, maybe a Word document with some text that you want to use, etc. And you've also got the tone of voice that you want to use, the length of the content, and so on. So it says create a newsletter page for, and we'll just put something like annual meeting, featuring sections on travel, and we'll have a thought for the day. I'm just going to use some of the prompts here and fill that out. This is going to be it's a meeting, and then upcoming activities. We could have strategic goals and things like that listed in here. And I'm just going to leave it like that. It's going to come up with a lot of content itself. So as we hit generate, it's going through and it's creating that news article for me. And of course, you remain in the design experience, you remain in control as to whether this is posted or not. You can use it as a great starting point, which a lot of us are doing for all types of things. Maybe we're composing emails or, like I say, creating PowerPoint slide decks and so on, and using AI in order to be able to help get us started. So this is me fully hands off. This is Copilot going through and creating that news article for me. And in a moment, it should be finished and we can post and send and get that published. So we'll just give that a moment. You've got a nice travel image there that it's generated. And and yeah, adding web parts for me with the quote and so on that we asked for here. Got some product showcases, and yeah, in just a moment this is going to be ready. So there we go. It's set background color for me, and it's picking up that background color from the theme as well. So this is the theme color that we're working with currently, and that's going to be pretty much the case for some of the other design experience things that you're going to see shortly. So whilst that's continuing, I'm just going to point out this sidebar over on the right. You may have seen how the properties have changed. So web part properties and section properties and things like that. It's all driven from this icon here on the right hand side. But what we've also got is this design ideas, which is very much like what you get with inside of Microsoft PowerPoint for design ideas. And then we've also got the accessibility checker here as well. And we'll be able to run through some of that in just a moment. So yeah, running out of ideas to fill, but hopefully in just a second this is going to be like I said, complete, and we can go through and publish it. So lots of strategic goals being created and so on. All right, and that's the final moment. Okay, so changes are all saved. We're in draft mode still, and yeah, we can hopefully go and hit post and send. So let's say we want to keep this design. Okay, we'll post the news. We've got that ability to go through and send an email if we want to let people have the email copy of this news article, which I'm going to skip. And that's it. We've got our new page and so on that we can reference. All right, so that's the Copilot page experience. Obviously, there's a lot more to it than that. I just want to give you a little bit of a taster of some of these things. I know there's lots of people that are doing entire sessions on the Copilot pages, so there's a lot to learn about that. But we're going to aggregate that news article as well using the Lightning Conductor very, very shortly. So that's one of the new improvements. Another improvement, if we just go to our home page and edit that, I want to show you these new flexible sections that we have, and that very much is in line with what we do in providing different web parts for SharePoint. So as we navigate down, you'll notice that yeah, we can create different sections. So typically we'd be creating one column or two column sections, and each of those sections within the column you'll be able to position a web part, and the web part is going to fill that column. So if you want a bit more flexibility over that, then you've got the flexible section. And as we add that flexible section, it doesn't become too obvious what that is until you actually start to add some web parts. So we can look at all of the web parts. You can see some of the Lightning Tools web parts in here, as well as some of the other web parts that you get out of the box. So let's just say we wanted one of these buttons or call to action web parts, which are the generic ones. You'll notice as I go to drag that onto the page, no longer is it just going to sit in the left-hand column or the right-hand column. We can position it exactly where we want it on a grid. So that's given me that button. And if we just go into the properties of that button, I will just point out that all this is going to do is call a URL, and there's a reason for pointing that out, which you'll see a little bit later on. Okay, so that's a section, and just in case you're wondering, yeah, those sections can also incorporate our web parts as well. So let's bring up the properties again. Yeah, you've also got design, layouts, and so on, etc. Somehow managed to lose my web part gallery, so let me just go through and add another section. Yeah, it's somehow not coming up. Okay, never mind. You see me add at least one web part to that section anyway. So yeah, you've got the option of adding those. there we go. We've got the webpack back. So yeah, if I drag and drop the Lightning Conductor in here, you can see how that can also be positioned exactly where you want it. It doesn't have to be left or right, and you can also make it as big as or as small as you want as well. Okay, so some brand new flexible sections in there, which is I think a nice feature. But even with the standard sections, if we go with a 1-column or a 2-column section, we can get into the properties of those, and again you can choose the layout as we've always been able to do. You can make the section collapsible. You can also provide headings and things like that. And if we get into the design experience, you'll notice that you've got these different backgrounds that you can work with. And some of, not all of, the web parts provided by Microsoft already pick up the transparent background. So as we go to add any of these web parts here, we'll go with like the document library web part. You'll notice when that is added, it's defaulting to this white background, but we can also get some transparent backgrounds, which is what you're going to see here. So that image comes through to the web part itself. And what we're going to do is just work with one of our web parts in here, which is going to be inserted between these two sections here. So we're going to add a 1-column section, and we'll go into the design of that, and we can either pick one of those images, or Microsoft has also enabled many more images that are free to use. So we're going to go through and insert one of those. So we're working with this travel experience. So we've got sky as a background, and you'll notice that it's not just the background image itself. You can also create an overlay, and you can set the opacity of that overlay as well. So we've got the image of the sky, and you'll notice here if we go in and add one of our products, I'm going to add the Social Squared product, that again, just like the out-of-the-box SharePoint products, they will have a white background typically. But what I'm going to do is come down here into the properties of the Social Squared, and under the theme provider here, we can customize the background to have a transparent background. So we'll go through and apply that to both the content and the main background, and you can see now how that looks a lot better with these new sections, and you've got those colors coming through, not just on this view, but also as we navigate through to the main content within inside of Social Squared. And we'll be touching more on that in just a moment. So these are some of the new sections. What you also have is that design idea. I'm just going to come up to this title here. So we've got this header for where Social Squared is, called the Crew Lounge. That's just a better way of describing a discussion forum for an airline company. So what I can do is just click into that section and then come into the design ideas. And again, just like PowerPoint, it's suggesting some different formats for that heading. So we're not just got a standard heading 1 and then a paragraph. We can go through and choose one of these, and it'll actually style that for me, and of course allow me to add a little bit more into that as well if I want to. Okay, so yeah, there's some improvements there. So the other thing I wanted to point out is the new dashboard web part. So this is something that again you had with the Viva connections. You can add it anywhere on your page. So I'm just going to come down here to towards the bottom, and we'll add a 1-column section for that. And inside that section, we're going to add the dashboard web part. So if we just do a search on dashboard, you will notice that we get this this dashboard web part, which is currently in preview. Okay, so it does say that it has to be set up. There's not a great deal that we can do in here. So the way we would set that up is by clicking onto the cog icon in the top right corner and coming down to Manage Dashboard, and we can hit Edit. And I'm pleased that this is working. It is in preview. I practiced my demos earlier today, and halfway through that practice, it stopped working. But yeah, it's here back and working at the moment. So yeah, within the dashboard, we can hit Edit, and you'll notice that we have this ability to add adaptive cards. So again, if you've been using Viva Connections for a while, you'll be experienced with this, but you'll notice that similar to the web parts that you can add into SharePoint, you've also got these adaptive cards. So these could be numerous different things, but they're meant to be small tiles that have a small piece of functionality. So you can see some of the Lightning Tools adaptive cards in here. We have got things like the Lightning Conductor that we can go through and add. We've also got news, the data viewer, and we've also got social squared on there as well. So if I wanted to, for example, use unanswered topics, I can drop that on and notice how it's telling me there's 16 unanswered topics, and we'll be able to go through and view those once we've published this this web part. But you've also got the card designer. So if you wanted just any heading with any text and a button that performs something, you can go through and do that. And yeah, there's numerous different things that you can display on there. The ability to praise colleagues and things like that. So if we hit republish and navigate back to home, and let's scroll down to the dashboard web part, you can see that that is now on here. There we are, with those 3 adaptive cards. So anybody accessing this on a mobile device or anything like that can see some useful information through the dashboard. Okay, so again, you had that in Viva Connections. You've now pretty much got it in any site. This is not a Viva Connection site. It's just a standard SharePoint communication site. All right, and one of the other things we can do while we're here, if we just jump back into edit, is do some accessibility checking on our site. So we'll just let that get into edit mode. Okay, and with the accessibility checker, it's going to pick up any issues. So it says it looks good. There's no issues found, but it has got some suggestions like missing alt text and inconsistent header colors and hard to read contrast and things like that. So it's telling us which web part that is. So yeah, it's complaining about this section, which you saw me add. Of course, it doesn't have any text on there at all. So yeah, it obviously thinks that the text is hard to read, but albeit there isn't any. All right, so yeah, you do have that accessibility assistant as well, which is very useful. Okay, so there's some of the improvements that Microsoft has been making. What we've been doing is basically getting our web parts together so that they can work with some of these new sections. So we're going to be taking a look at that. We'll start off with the Lightning Conductor, which is going to be used for aggregating content. With that, you can aggregate content from throughout SharePoint or also external content or Microsoft Graph or Microsoft 365 Graph content as well. So whether you've got things like Planner tasks or Microsoft To Do tasks, OneDrive files, whatever it is, you can have that display as part of your SharePoint page in a nice way so that users are going to easily find the content that they're after. There's numerous different views. We've got things like calendar views, we've got tile views, there's file viewers, image carousels, and all sorts of things that you can use with the Lightning Conductor. And if you think of what you can aggregate out of the box already, it's somewhat limited to just a few scenarios. This goes way beyond that. We can even go through and aggregate content from Jira or Salesforce or whatever it might be, and display that so that becomes part of our intranet page, and we're serving that information to the users. We've also got the capability of building out visualizations. So using the data viewer, we can visualize data that may be in something like Excel. It could be lists and libraries. Again, it could also be external content somewhere like SQL, or you can get content from other web parts, which includes things like the Lightning Conductor as well. So you could aggregate content and then display a chart based on that aggregated content using the data viewer. So again, really useful to provide visual content with inside that sort of intranet type environment. Lightning Tools Actions, there was a reason why I showed you the button web part. It's very much limited to just a link. So with Lightning Tools Actions, there's all sorts of automation actions that you can use, things like copying documents, generating documents. We can create list items, send emails, and all sorts of things that you can combine together into a flow of automations that can either be driven through the command bar with inside a SharePoint list and act on multiple list items, or can also be embedded on the page as well as a button. Hence, we're showing it here. It's a way of extending that SharePoint page to apply automation as well. And then finally, Social Squared, as you've seen, also offers discussions, knowledge, and engagement. So we do have things like Viva Engage, which gives you that feed of content. With Social Squared, you're getting more of a discussion forum type functionality, which we'll be jumping into and having a look at as well. And then some of the enhancements that we've made, you just saw one of them with inside of Social Squared, how we can have that transparent background, but what we can also do is work with different fonts now, different font sizes, etc., which are all designed through that brand center inside of SharePoint. So this is something that our customer base has been asking for a long, long time. They don't just want to work with the standard theme. They want to break out and use a consistent font throughout the web parts on the page as well as the page itself, and that can now be achieved in combination with the brand center and the Lightning Tools products. So we'll jump back into SharePoint and take a look at some of these things. So here inside the site, you've already seen how we've got Social Squared. Let's just republish that, and we'll have a bit of a tour around Social Squared, and then a couple of the data visualizations that we have on there as well. So within inside of Social Squared, you'll notice that we've got these discussion boards. So we've got one called Flight Operations, Cabin Crew Connect. We've got Ground and Ramp Crew, Training, Career, Lifestyle and Travel. So whoever you are inside of this organization, you can come in and you can ask questions, get these questions answered, and they're not just going to disappear inside a feed. They're going to be sort of permanently there, and people can focus on different forums where they specialize, or that's part of their job. So we've got some in-flight announcements and scripts in here. So you can see there we've got best way to introduce members is one of the questions. So as we navigate into that, we can see that somebody wants to have a crew intro that's a bit more personal, and there's a response to that and so on. So that has been marked as answered. We can also reply to it ourselves. So when we go to compose a reply, I'm just going to create something simple. We can also tag it. So this could be tagged with the word crew or something along those lines to make it easier to find this content. And yeah, you'll then be able to go through and post your response with inside that. Now, this could have hundreds of different replies to it. So one of the things you can do as a reader is go through and show the answer, and that is going to show anything that's been marked as answered. And marking something as an answer is something that the moderator can do, or the topic creator can do. So if you asked a question and somebody came in and responded to you in an ideal way, you could mark that as answered, so it goes on to serve other people that are looking for questions and answers as well. And then we've also got the ability to make things sticky. So that could be sticky indefinitely. So it remains at the very top of the forum. You can also move the topic as a moderator. So if this is posted in maybe the wrong forum, we could move it to somewhere where it's more likely going to be responded to, and so on. So over time, you build up this knowledge base of content that can be searched, and yeah, people can find the answers to questions that they're looking for much easier. So you've also got all the different views, including a tag cloud view. So in here, we've got things like scripts or turbulence or whatever it might be, where content has been tagged with that. And yeah, we can go through and see that content. And you'll see in here that some people have been using the laugh emoji or the like emoji and so on. And yeah, you've also got the ability to rate it and things like that. Okay, which allows me to jump down here into a couple of the visualizations that we've got. One of them is actually visualizing that content that is inside of Social Squared. So this is showing how many answered versus unanswered posts we have. And the one on the right here is showing of the 2 people that have been posting in this environment, how many have been responded to with the laugh emoji. So obviously this account here, Lightning Tools, who I'm signed in with, is really funny. And then we've got demo user 5 who isn't that funny. And they've got less laugh emojis against their content. But again, you can see how this data viewer product is picking up the background and so on that. So let's just have a look at those. Then we're going to build a new data viewer actually based on some Excel content, which is something that as a user you would also be able to go through and achieve. So one of the web parts that you get out of the box with SharePoint is a chart web part, but the chart web part is very much tied to just a SharePoint list. What you'll notice if we go into the data viewer is you can have multiple charts inside the same instance. So this could be the answered versus unanswered posts, and we could go through and maybe create one of those per forum. I was going to leave this as new view 1, but that gives me the ability to select which view I want to see, and then we can go through and configure our new view. So notice how this is pointing to SharePoint lists by default, but we can also go against OData, against SQL, Excel. We've got graph connectors as well, or another web part on the page. So that particular one was going against the SharePoint list. We can choose a chart view, and this will display all of the sites that I have access to. So I don't have to just stay to the one site, to a list living inside this site. I can point somewhere else inside of my my environment. And we've got this list here called SS Posts, which is where the it's a hidden list where the social squared posts are living. And as we go into the column properties, you'll notice in here all of the columns for that content. So what we had was answered, which is the yes or no, and we then also have the ID, which is the list item ID. So as we go into the display, we can switch to different types of charts, whether it's tree maps, gauges, geo maps, etc. I'm going to go with a pie chart. We'll group by the aggregation there of whether they're answered or not, and you can see how we've got those distinct slices set. And we can get into the chart settings if you want to make this a donut chart instead, and so on, and which we can switch between and see the content in a visual way. How we can work with Social Square to be able to report on that, but we can add, let's just actually create another new section. So we'll have a one column section this time, and again we'll set a quick background on that section. So let's just go with one of these rather than something specific and travel related, and we'll add the data viewer in here. So those of you that have been around long enough may remember that we had Excel services, which was part of or introduced in SharePoint 2007, I think. Yeah, if you've got an Excel workbook living inside a document library somewhere and you want to build a chart on it that is dynamic and tied to that data viewer, to the Excel workbook, we can go through and do the same thing today with the data viewer. So I'm going to point to a document library, and it will list any Excel documents that I have inside that library. We can select the worksheet, it will detect the range. We just hit save, and now we can go through and select the columns. So this contains airline delays. So I'm going to choose the airline, the delay, and how many passengers are being affected. And then we'll go to the display for that. So this is our default chart. We're going to group by the airline, and the delay is going to point to, let's just make that an area, or maybe stick with a pink color. And the passenger count, those people that are affected, we'll make that a column, and with that we'll tie that back to the theme color as well. Okay, so we get a nice contrast between that pink and blue. Hit save, and we've very easily got, with a transparent background, a data visualization that is dynamic. As the Excel document gets updated, it's going to update our chart on the page here, giving that feedback to the users that need to see it. Okay, so again, there's lots of different charts that you can work with, lots of different connectors that you can work with as well. You're not just limited to 5 options there. Using the Microsoft 365 external connectors, you can pretty much connect to anything as long as Microsoft supports it, and that would allow you to display data visualizations on that content. All right, so that's the data viewer. We've seen Social Squared and the data viewer in there. Let's go through and look at some content aggregation. So again, we're going to add another 1-column section. And we'll add a background design. Again, let's just jump in here to maybe the sky background. And make that a little bit more opaque, otherwise it's going to be quite difficult to see what's going on. And then we'll add the Lightning Conductor in here as well. So the Lightning Conductor is all about reporting on content. It started life as the ability to aggregate from SharePoint lists and libraries across different site collections, which was a pain point back in sort of 2007 era. What we have now is a product that can aggregate content from lots of different places. If I just jump into the advanced mode for a moment, you'll see that we can aggregate from a search query, we can aggregate from lists and libraries in different sites or site collections or hubs, etc. You've also got the graph rollup provider, which gives you the ability to, if you just have a look at the data source, aggregate from all sorts of different apps within inside of Microsoft 365. So it could be things like calendar events or OneDrive items. It can be groups and people, it could be messages, etc. So everything that you can get to pretty much from Microsoft Graph, we can query. And then you've also got external graph rollup providers as well, which if we jump onto that data source for a moment, sorry, bear with me, selected the wrong one there. Sorry, the graph connectors is where I meant to go. So this is giving me things like Salesforce and Jira and so on as well, where we can build a report on that content. Now you can either work here in the advanced mode, or when we come into it for the first time, there's lots of different scenarios that are already kind of created for you. So if we wanted to aggregate documents, for example, we can select documents, and rather than being limited to just documents with inside this hub or documents with inside this site, we can actually go through and aggregate content from much larger scopes, and we can be very specific about the content that we're going to get as well. There's a few views that already have filters applied to it. So things like my documents, my checked out documents, etc. I'm going to leave it on all documents. And then these are some of the sort of generic scopes that we could work with. And you can either work with them in real time, or we can also work with them through search indexing as well. So you can go to very wide scopes. You can have multiple site collections and so on using search, so that you get instant results and you're not having to wait for that query to churn in the background. I'm just going to limit this one to the current site, just because there's some useful related content there. And you'll notice that I've got some options as to how I want to display that. So I can either have it as a grid view or a tile view, and that will vary based on what type of content I'm aggregating, as you'll see in a moment. So there's some options as well based on what content we're aggregating. So I'm going to choose the display person avatars in this one. And we can also have a document preview as well, where you could have a document selected and then see a preview of what that document is. It's also an option that you can have as well. So as we save that, it's adding the Lightning Conductor with our default view. And whilst we're in here, we can work with what that view is going to look like. So if we wanted to go through and change the date formatting here, if we don't really care for the time being displayed, we want to make it look more visually appealing, and one of the things we could do is just drop that time and have it as a short date. We can do that, and there's all sorts of visual options that you've got there. So that just truncates that down a little bit, and then we could also do the same with modified date and so on as well. And you've also got the ability to add more columns. So if we go to show column, you'll see things listed in here that we might want to add. So that could include things like file size, for example. So we've now got the file size showing. And if I go into the display formatting for that, we can actually filter that and where that decimal place lives based on whether we want to look at it as kilobytes or megabytes, gigabytes, etc. Okay, and with that, you could also add conditional formatting. So we could say if the file size is greater than a certain amount, then we want to display that inside a certain color or with a certain icon, and so on. So there's lots of different things that you can do to make that content stand out there. Users will have a filter experience directly with inside the web part, but what we can also do is add the filter web part as well, which I'm going to do. So we're just going to add that directly above. So this is known as lightning filters. Okay, and the lightning filters web part effectively connects to another web part to filter the values. It can filter based on the data viewer. It can also filter on the lightning conductor, and both at the same time if you want to. So again, we can set transparency on the background. That's just going to apply when I close that box. And in here, I'm just going to say select a user. So we can see that user's content and what that user's working on. So at the moment, we've got all these documents created by different people, and that's what I want to filter on. Now, we've got a slider control by default, because that's going to filter on numbers. I want to filter on people. This could also filter on taxonomy and metadata and choices and things like that. But we want a people filter. We'll have it just work with users and not groups. We'll have it default to the current user that's signed in. So you can see it's dropping my details in there. And yeah, we'll go through and publish that. And once that's published, you'll see how we can actually come in and switch the user out that we want to filter on. Now, currently that's not connected to anything. So we're just going to go through, edit the page again, and we'll connect that through to the Lightning Conductor, so that we're going to be able to filter that content with inside the Lightning Conductor based on the user's choice. So this is really powerful when you're building dashboards and you want multiple web parts to change based on one filter value. So if we select the Lightning Conductor, go into the properties, and we'll configure our view, which I'm actually going to take this moment to change that to say documents. And we'll go into the properties here, and under our columns, on the created by, we're going to hit the filter icon and choose the connection. And this is where I can select my badly typed select a user, and we'll map that to a property, which is the user's title, and save this. And what we're going to end up with is, yeah, all the files are all the ones that demo user 5 was working on. And if I want to change that out, back to myself, you can see all the files that I'm working on, and so on. Okay. Now, inside the Lightning Conductor, we also have a styling section where I can have that command bar also be transparent as well. So we can honor that transparency. What I'm also going to do is add multiple views, just like with the data viewer. We can add another view of calendars, and we're going to configure that one. And so the calendar items we're going to get basically tying to events. These don't have to be just limited to this site or just to this hub. They can be from wherever we want. I am going to go with the current site, but yeah, we could get those that content from multiple places. And there's different types of views for that one as well. So I'm going to choose the calendar view rather than the list view. And inside the Lightning Conductor, I'm just going to add tabs as a way of selecting which view I want to see. So notice how I can now switch from a document to a calendar from within inside that web part. So we're taking up much less space on our SharePoint page in order to be able to aggregate all this content and display it in a nice way to our users. So that's just picking up some of the things that we've got coming up as events here. Now, each view can also have an icon. So against the calendar view, if we set an icon for that one, we'll do a search here on calendar. And for our documents, we'll select a document icon, and we're also going to create one more, which is going to be news. And as we go through and configure that one, we'll be able to bring in some news, again, from the current site, and we'll have that shown as a list rather than a carousel. All right, and again, we'll set an icon to resemble news. Okay, so yeah, now we've got our aggregated news, and in here should be the document that was created through Copilot earlier on, and then we've also got a calendar with the day, week, month view, and we've got documents as well, all aggregated into one web part with that transparent background option. Okay, so the other thing that we might want to do from here that is frequently asked for is how do we actually create events in a nice way, or how can we generate documents and so on. And the answer to that is to use Lightning Tools actions. So in here, we're going to add another web part. The Lightning Tools actions. So we'll just select that. Okay, and we can add our own buttons in here. So it's not just one button per web part. We can add a new button, and this button is going to say create an event. And again, we can set an icon. Okay, with this button, we can have a visible expression or an enabled expression. So what we might do with that is say that if the current user is a member of a specific SharePoint group or an Azure Active Directory security group, and that could be nested group as well. So we could have a group called Event Planners, for example. I don't, but if I did, I could add that. Test the logic is returning false because I'm not in that group. The group doesn't exist. But that is my function for when this button should actually be clickable or visible to a user. And there's all sorts of different things that we can specify in there. So it may be different buttons for different languages or for different cultures, or you could have based on the page query string and so on, who this button is actually going to be available for. And I'm just going to cancel that and get into the configuration of the actions. So remember, the button that you can add on a standard SharePoint page is very much limited to just a URL. These are some of the different actions that we have here. So notice how you can open a form is what we're going to do. So we're just going to double click onto open form. I'm going to come in and choose the events list. The form I want is the new form, and we want to have that open up in a side panel that's of medium size. So that's all we want that to do. If we wanted it to do some other things as well, we could actually collect variables, maybe from something on the page here, and we can invite a guest user to have access to that item that we create, and so on and so forth. But we're just going to OK that and OK that again, and we've got our button. We could add another one, which is going to be generate new flight plan. And so in here, we'll have a plane icon. And you'll notice in here, we've got a copy document. So if we've got a template that we want to work with, that again lives on this site or in another site, I know the document ID is number 9. We could get that dynamically if we wanted to. And then I'm just going to create that as a copy inside the same document library, and we'll give it a different name. So that's going to generate a document when we want it to. We could also convert that document to a PDF afterwards as well, and that type of thing. So we'll choose OK to that, and that's given us 2 buttons, which we can also go in and style. So you'll notice there's different styles here. We could have tile buttons, standard buttons, we've got list buttons, grid buttons, and so So you can choose the style of button that you want, and then you can also get into the styling of that as well. So there's generic styles, or there's styles per button. So if I go into the generic styles for both buttons, add a style section to those, you'll notice we'll go through and change the background color of our buttons. So this defaults again to the theme colors. So we'll preview that, and the icon will set to white, and the description will also set to white. Let's just go with one of those. There we go. So that generates the CSS. You can have different states of those buttons. So whether it's hovered over, you can have different things happen. Sorry, change description, not label. There we go. So there's our buttons, and we can save and close that. And we've been able to add some automation now to our site as well. So we'll hit republish. And yeah, so we've got our social squared discussion forums. We have the adaptive cards. We've got our data visualizations in here, as well as aggregated content, and somewhere are some buttons which seem to get lost in all of that. But you saw the creation of those anyway. All right, so back to slides for a moment. So basically, we've explored some of the new SharePoint design features from Microsoft, just touched on those briefly. And that's allowed you to see how you can create content pages with Copilot. You can have design suggestions to make your titles look better, or your entire pages look better, and so on. You've seen the accessibility checker as well. And then using the Lightning Tools web parts, you've also seen how you can discover or aggregate content. You can visualize content as well. You've got a discussion board where you can capture questions and answers, and also generate actions through SharePoint and the Lightning Tools Actions web part. Okay, so all of those are being created as a new suite of products called the Lightning Tools Intranet Essentials. So that is something that you could either purchase individually if there's single components that you wanted to look at using, or they can also be packaged as a suite as well, and purchased for your intranet to add that additional functionality. At that point, I'm going to open up for questions. I know there's not a huge amount of people on this call, so there may not be any questions, but if you do have a question, by all means, drop that into the Q&A or into the chat. I'll keep an eye on both and be able to provide an answer. Alternatively, we do also have our next webinar coming up, which is going to focus on forms and automation. So we're going to get into the form design experience using Lightning Forms and also the Lightning Tools Form Designer. There's some new features in there, which I know you've also been asking for, things like external data lookups and things like that. So if you want to, you can register for that webinar as of tomorrow. As of now, if you want to book a demo on any of these products, by all means do that. You'll notice on our website, there's a book a demo button, and you'll be able to book that demo with me. And there's also a trial of each of the web parts we've seen today as well. So if you wanted to play around with those over a period of 30 days, you can help yourself to that if you want to. And then if there's any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on brett@lightningtools.com as well. If there's sales related questions, then there's sales@lightningtools.com as well. And yeah, there's no questions yet created, so I'll perhaps leave it at that you can reach out to me should you have any. So again, brett@lightningtools.com, and I'll be able to answer any questions that you fire my way. But hopefully you found this useful, and thank you very much for joining, and hopefully look forward to seeing you on next month's webinar when we talk about forms and automation. All right, many thanks.